All right, guys, let's get started. Today we're going to begin on the floor with some bridges. So lay down in the center of your mat. Your back is going to be on the floor and your feet and knees are in closed parallel with no light between them. Arms come long at your sides, melting the shoulder blades down, and we're going to lift in a hinge. So that means we're not going to round the spine at all. We're simply going to pick up the pelvis, lengthen the knees, and bring it all the way to the top. Let's hold this first one to check in with our organization. Make sure all four corners of your feet are imprinting into the mat. The knees are reaching long, 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 and you can even take a glance at your pelvis. Is it level? There might be a chance that it's kind of tipping side to side. And we want those arms actively imprinting to get the mid-back and our postural muscles all engaged. From here, we're going to exhale as we melt from behind the heart. Don't let your hips drop first. Let the heart drop first, lengthening out as you slowly roll down, setting down the spaces between the vertebrae. And now the pelvis rolls onto the floor and we unwind into neutral. Again, we're going to pick it up in that hinge. Meet me all the way up at the top. And we're going to melt directly from behind our heart, magnetizing the outer thighs, elongating the front side of the abdomen as we curl down. That's how we find the deep core connection, not just loading all the work into the hamstrings. Pick it up again, come up into that flat back hinge at the top, and then we melt down from behind the heart. Think about those spaces between the vertebrae of your spine rather than the bones themselves to find even more traction length. Again, up into that hinge at the top, no crease on the front side of the hips, knees reach long, long, long as we start that roll down, slowly elongating the spine as we bring it down. What's happening with those arms? Did you forget about them? Make sure they're imprinting into the mat as we pick up again. We're at the top of that bridge now, melting down from behind the heart. Lots of length, all sides of the spine, front, back, side to side. I have good news, we're gonna hold this next one up, okay? So let's hold this next one up, pick it up in a hinge with a flat back, lengthen the knees from the crown of the head. Check in, make sure you're not kind of rolled all the way up onto your neck. You wanna stop just at the shoulders, magnetize the outer thighs. Now Lyssa's gonna keep both of her feet down, but if you're looking for additional challenge for the next several, we're gonna keep our knees glued together, and Janet and I are gonna show the right leg extending long. Now we're just on that left leg. Check your pelvis that it didn't rotate. And everyone, we're gonna lower down together, melting from behind the heart. Same range of movement, we're just now doing on a far more narrow pedestal. The pelvis rolls down into neutral, pick it up in a hinge. Arms are active, even more important here. Melt down from behind the heart, knees are glued together. Front side of that right ankle is open. We have two more just like this. Keep those knees glued together. Lengthen up with that flat back hinge. Slowly rolling down from behind the heart. Lengthening as we roll. The tailbone hits, we get into that neutral. Last time on this side, lengthening up. Melt from behind the heart as we slowly roll the spaces down. When the tailbone hits, we're gonna hold, the right foot comes down, and we're gonna extend the left leg up. The knees are glued together, the front side of the ankle is open, left leg is extended. And now we're gonna pick up in a hinge. Hold at the top, check the pelvis. I dipped towards the right, so we wanna make sure your hips are level. And go ahead and start that roll down from behind your heart, keeping the pelvis quiet. And rolling all the way into that neutral. 3 more. Lengthening up. Keep the hips level, slowly rolling from behind the heart. 2 more here, we got this. Lengthening as you extend, the knees still reach long. You want that oppositional length, kind of like you're pulling on a tight pair of jeans right out of the dryer. We've all done that once or twice. So we want to make sure we're kind of getting that sensation of the femurs, the bones reaching in as the legs reach long. Last time, rolling down from behind the heart. And go ahead and fold that left knee, bring it down. All right, let's get moving up onto our side or onto our hip. We're gonna go into our side bending mermaid. So we're gonna start with our knees bent. I'm sitting on my right hip, right knee is bent, left knee is bent, and we're gonna bring the right forearm down onto the floor. From here, we're gonna inhale as the arm extends and we sit tall. Exhale, we're gonna fold that forearm down onto the floor. You can keep the arm extended for additional challenge. Janet might be showing us the version where we can bring the arms up and overhead to lengthen the lever, and that adds even more cardio effort, as well as lengthening the lever increases the challenge through the core. So you can try that variation. You can keep one arm touching like Lyssa is showing us, and that gives you a little more support on the way up. The idea is that we are connecting to the core to do the lift, and that's wrapping all the way around. So it's not just that one side of the waistline or one oblique. We want everything working together. Inhaling as we raise, adding length. Exhaling as we lower down. We're going to do 3 more. Really find that length. So when we sit up, we don't want to shorten that left waistline. Last 2. We're going to go into leg sweeps next. And last 1. So bring that forearm down, or Lyssa's going to show us all the way down on her right side. That's a less aggressive version. We're going to have the right knee bent and the left leg long. Now, if you're looking for more challenge, what we're going to do is float that right hip up off the floor, so you're kind of in this side plank position, or you can be all the way down. Keeping the hips stacked, those hip bones stacked one on top of the other, we're going to float that left leg up just a few inches. We want it to be in line with our hip bone. Keeping the pelvis quiet, we're going to sweep it forward somewhere around 45 degrees. I don't care if it hits that exactly. I care that you don't roll the low back like this, all right? So keep that nice and long. And now we're going to think of our femur head, that's your thigh bone, and we're going to think of it like a doorknob. So we're going to turn the doorknob in, up, and then we want to leave because that's really awful. And then we're going to turn the doorknob in. Is that why you're leaving? Janet's leaving. Is she even back there? It's hard to tell. So we're going to keep that leg long. Think about lifting away from that right elbow and right forearm, keeping the hips quiet. And you can see that everything else is staying organized. We're not dropping down and hanging out. We're keeping everything organized as we're lubricating that hip joint. Now, it's also toning and strengthening the leg. That's cool, but it's also improving the function of your hip. So after the workout, you're going to walk and stand better than you did before you started. We're going to hold that next one in internal rotation. So that means we've turned the doorknob in. My inner thigh is spiraling back this direction. And now we're going to do a lateral lift. That simply means a little lift straight up, and you can really feel that glute med getting an intense focus there. You guys feeling that? Found that? All right, good. A little bit of heat building up there. That's okay. If you want increased cardio effort, you can take that left arm up. Keep both sides of the waistline really long, long, long. My left hip really wants to climb up here. We're going to do 6 more. Keep that internal rotation. Try to keep the foot relaxed. Last 4. Last 3. Last 2. And bring it all the way down. If you have a ring, now's the time to grab it. If not, Lyssa's going to show you what to do without the ring. So we're going to go into some wide parallel plies. So let's take our hands inside the ring, and we're going to have our feet about shoulder width distance. From here, we're going to go straight down with our torso. So we're not bending forward. This is not a squat. You girls keep doing what you're doing, but I'm going to demonstrate here. So a squat would be with the fold forward, and the plie that we're asking for is keeping that torso upright and keeping your sternum stacked over your pubic bone. So go ahead and exhale on the way down. Soft bend to the knees, torso stays upright. Inhale, the waistline lifts you up. If you have that ring, plug those arms into the shoulders. So we don't want to come here. You really want to keep that connected to the back line. Inhaling as we float all the way up to standing. Exhaling on the way down. Don't be afraid of that full leg extension. We want the full functionality of the knee and hip joint, but we need to do it with intention. We need to draw the kneecaps up with intention to the quadriceps, and that's going to help us access the upper fibers of our hamstrings, which incidentally lift the booty, but also improve the functionality of that hip. Hold the next one here. And we're going to do a small movement. It's going to be a weight shift of the legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about sticky, sticky taffy under our right foot, and we're simply going to peel that taffy off, and you can see my weight shifted to the left, and then we're going to set it down. And if you're doing this without a huge range of movement, you'll notice pretty quickly that the core is working overtime to stabilize the pelvis as you peel that sticky side up off the floor. So it's a tiny little lift. It's not a side kick. It's not a great big movement. And you want to keep it as small as you can. Can you make it even smaller? I'm going to try to reduce my range of movement a little bit here. Ooh, that definitely cranks up the core effort. The smaller you make it, can you girls make yours a teeny touch smaller? Yeah? So it looks easy, right? But I know if you're feeling it, the way we are, it's not so easy. Let's do one more to the left, whoosh, and one more to the right, and go ahead and set both feet down. If you have the ring, we're going to place it between the ankles, and everyone's going to come into an external rotation, so that means my inner thighs are forward and my toes are out at a soft V. From here, we're gonna go into pliés again, but now we're in external rotation. Exhaling as we lower, sits bones are broad, and then inhale as we gather and raise. Exhale as we lower. Inhale as we narrow to lift. So the sits bones broaden at the base of the pelvis as you lower into a plie. Can you feel those bones opening out to the sides? And then rather than pushing through the feet, we're gonna think about the sits bones narrowing at the base of the pelvis, and that's how we find that low belly connection. So we're exhaling to broaden the sits bones, inhaling as we narrow. You can kind of do a little choose your own adventure with the arms here. You can lower them as you come into that plie, raise them to shoulder height. You can raise them even higher. Janet's going to show us with the arms up and overhead. That increases the cardio effort. Melting the shoulder blades down. We're going to do 2 more. And then we're going to do some pulses at the bottom. So hold this next one low. Arms can be wherever you like. It can be on your hips if it starts to feel aggressive. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about those sits bones. That's going to be our focus of movement. We're going to think about those sits bones broadening 1 inch and narrowing 1 inch. So it's very small, but it's very intentional of where that movement is coming from. It's not a bounce. You can do this all day. We're thinking about narrowing the sits bones, engaging the deep abdominals, your transverse abdominis, all the way around to the multifidus on the back line of the body, and that's narrowing like a corset to help us raise and lower. Let's do 3 more here. Let's do 2 more. And all the way up on the last 1. All right, guys, keep that ring if you have it. We're going to sit down on our behind in the center of the mat, and we're going to go into some seated torso rotations. So the ring is going to go around your ankles, or Lyssa's going to have her knees and toes glued together. From here, we're going to sit back into a teaser position. So float the legs up into a 90-degree bend if you can. You want to get the knees closer to your chest than you might imagine, and lengthen the low back. That's really tough for me to do. You can see me kind of wobbling up there. So give your body kind of a chance to sort that out. Hold the thighs if you need to. And then we're gonna come into prayer hands. And on the inhale, our rib basket rotates towards the right. Notice my head didn't lead it, my shoulders didn't lead it. Exhale to center. Inhale as long as you can as we rotate. Exhale back to center. 6 more. Inhale, rotate the rib basket, the head, the shoulders, the hands follow. You can always hold behind the hips if that starts to feel aggressive. Inhaling to rotate. Exhale, bring it back. Last 2. And all the way down. Good. If you have your ring, slide it up above the knees, and we're going to lay down on our backs. Once you're here, the arms are going to stay long at your sides, or Janet's going to show us interlaced behind the base of her skull to come up into an abdominal curl. Right, Janet? Yes. All right. And we're going to float those legs up into a tabletop position. So what's important here, guys, is to check in with your pelvis. Make sure you have lots of length between the navel and the pubic bone. And we're going to do around the world, but we're just going to go around one hemisphere to start with. So think about your body as a clock. We're at 12 o'clock right now in this tabletop. Now we're gonna dip the pelvis towards 9, towards the right. The knees follow, and then we're gonna kind of circle around down towards 6, and then bring it back up through that midline of the clock. The pelvis is now back to start. Tipping the pelvis to the right, towards 9 o'clock, circling the femur bones through the dome of the pelvis, and bring it back to start. So continue working with length on the body, tipping to the right. The pelvis and the legs kind of wilt to do it, and then it circles around. Good. Janet's going to have a whole lot of fun here because she's going to start with an extension as well. So we're going to have her start with bent knees as she comes through 6 o'clock. Oh, extension! And then we're going to go back, and you see that shaky shake? You're probably doing it too. Good. And then you can see what Lyssa is doing here. She's making it a little less aggressive. She's moving a little bit more slowly, and she doesn't have that ring to contend with. So she's got just the legs swimming through the domes of the pelvis, improving that mobility through the hip sockets. Let's do 1 more set, guys. And bring it in. Beautiful job. Set that ring aside if you have it, and we're going to flip it over into a 4-point kneeling position. So we're gonna have our hands and knees down on the mat. Hands are directly under the shoulders, and knees are about 4 inches apart, directly under the hip sockets. Take a quick second to check that you're in neutral with your natural lumbar curve and your hip bone shining straight to the floor. Lengthen the arms, broaden the collarbones so we're not hanging out in our shoulder joints. And then we're gonna roll the toes under, flip the toes under. With intention, on your next inhale, broaden the mid-back with breath. And on your exhale, narrow the corset to float the knees up off the floor and hold. Ideally, I'd like them right around ankle height. And I'm looking for that so that we have a nice connection to ankle flexibility and talus glide, which helps us improve our walking, standing, and pretty much everything we do in life. Lengthen the tailbone from the crown of the head. Look down at your mat rather than up to lengthen the back line of the spine. And imagine if your kneecaps were made of glass. Now we're gonna gently set them down. Beautiful, let's do that again. Collarbones are wide, lift away from the mat, lengthen the tailbone from the crown of the head. Exhale, narrow the corset, and invite the femur heads, the thigh bones, up and into the pelvis that hasn't changed its position. Holding and breathing. Collarbones are wide. Beautiful job, ladies, keep it up. And glass kneecaps, gently set it down. This last set, we're gonna do hover taps. So we're gonna broaden the collarbones, reset with intention, fill the mid-back with air, and lengthen as we exhale, float the knees up. Inhale, tap them down. Exhale, float the knees up. Inhale, tap them down. Good, beautiful. Really finding as much length as we can through the low back, maintaining that neutral pelvis, and thinking about that navel drawing up and in between the shoulder blades to connect that diagonal line and really narrow through the corset. Just a few more here. Beautiful job, you guys. Last 2. And bring it all the way down. Fantastic. If you have the ring, this is not going to be pretty, so just let's get over ourselves, shall we? We're going to lay down and go into a prone grasshopper. So first lay down all the way on your mat, and then we're going to take that ring and place it between the ankles. See, it's not even cute when we do it. We just bumped each other. It's okay. Come up above the ankle bones with that ring, and we're going to lay all the way down. Forehead is going to rest right onto your stacked hands. Sounds pretty good so far, right? Wait for it. So what we're gonna do is lengthen the tailbone long, long, long away from the crown of the head. That's tremendously important to protect the low back. And what do you notice immediately? Deep abdominals picking up off the floor. Yes, we found that? All right, we're gonna reach the legs so long that the thighs hover off of the floor. And oh my gosh, more deep abdominal engagement. Melting the shoulder blades down the spine, tailbone is reaching long from the crown of the head, and from here, keeping the knees hovered off of your mat, we are going to soften the knees and bring the heels towards our behind. Irrelevant how far they bend, the low back should not change. We're gonna inhale, legs go long. Keep that tailbone reaching in opposition as the knees flex. And inhale, reaching long again. I got $10 that says your belly button's resting on the floor. Draw that up and in between the shoulder blades, and that's how we find the intense core work all the way around like a corset. The core is not a six-pack of abs, my friends. It is all the way around. Lengthen the tailbone. Keeping deep abdominal engagement even when we're in this prone position. Hold the next one with the knees bent, melt the shoulder blades down, reach the tailbone long, knees are bent, and we're gonna do a tiny lift from our glam line. That's right where our glutes meet our hamstrings. It's a tiny little lift, low back should not change. It might not even be visible outwardly. It's just deepening of the crease right under your tush. Deepen that crease, navel is up and in, don't let it rest on the floor. Last 5, last 4, last 3, last 2, and all the way down. Oh my gosh, that was so fun, right? Let the ring go, and we're gonna come up, and we're gonna go into that supine around the world on the other side. So swing your legs around, we're gonna take that ring, and we're gonna put it above your knees, if you have it. Lay all the way down on your mat, arms are long. Keeping that neutral pelvis, we're gonna float those legs up into tabletop position with a neutral pelvis, arms are long. And now this time we're gonna go towards 3 o'clock, so the pelvis lifts to the side, and then we sweep around to 6 o'clock and come up through the midline of the clock. And 12, rounding to 3, coming to 6, up through the middle. Because Janet really wants to, she's gonna add that leg extension as she's down towards 6 o'clock. You can give that a try. Maybe you do it on one, and then not the next. And then on the other one, you can do it again. It's entirely up to you. You can interlace the hands behind the head. Melting the shoulder blades down. Think about those inner thighs spiraling out into that ring if you have one. Last 2. Shoulders stay quiet even though the pelvis is rolling. Ribs are going to do a tiny move, but it's really about the pelvis and the femurs swimming through the pelvis. Bring it back to start, and go ahead and set those feet down. We're going to come on up and go into that seated torso rotation on the left. So the ring slides down around the outer edges of the ankles, and we're gonna balance on our tailbone in that teaser position. So to get started, if you'd like to, you can simply take your hands behind your thighs and bring the legs up into your best teaser. Lengthen through the low back. You can keep your hands on your thighs as you rotate on the inhale, rotate the ribs to the left. Exhale, bring it back. Or you can choose to take your hands alongside your legs, in front of your body and go into a rotation. So you can see that Lyssa's supporting her body but still finding that rotation, and the movement still happens via the rib basket, even though she's giving herself some really nice support. Janet's got that extra challenging position where she's got the hands off of her thighs, and we're gonna think about that length. So you can almost think about a puppet string up the crown of the head. Whoa, beautiful. Go ahead and bring those knees a little bit closer. Last one. And we're gonna go right into those leg sweeps. Beautiful job, so tough. All right, ditch the ring if you have it, and we're gonna be on our left forearm. Lyssa's gonna lay all the way down on her left bicep. The bottom knee, the left leg is bent. And then we're gonna pick that hip up off the floor if you're up for that challenge. Make sure we don't hang out in that left shoulder. We're gonna lengthen up and out, float the right leg up into a parallel position level with the hip. And we're gonna start with that internal lift. I like to do things in reverse on the other side, keep my body paying attention. So we've turned that doorknob inward, and now we do a lift from here. You get really sincere challenge. This is a position we don't find ourselves in very often in life. And so really improving the functionality of the hip, as we've been talking about a lot today, really improving the range of movement. You'll notice that one side might be a little bit smaller range of movement than the other. On my right side, it's significantly smaller than what I can achieve on the left. 3, keep the hips level. 2, hold. Now we're gonna turn that doorknob out, and then we're gonna turn that doorknob in. So the movement comes from this hip joint. It does not come from the foot. So don't lead with the foot and twist the ankle around like so. We're simply turning that femur bone, and that's what's rotating that leg. Last 2. And bring it in. We're gonna go right into that mermaid side bend on the other side. So the knees are bent on the floor. I'm seated on the left hip, and the left forearm comes down onto the mat. The right arm is long, and we're gonna inhale as we rise up to the top, and the core is what's doing that lifting. We wanna make sure we're not pushing from that bottom arm at all. So think about the core lightening and lifting you rather than shoving away from the ground. So we don't wanna use momentum. We really wanna use that lift and length through our core. Just like on the other side, we have lots of different options for our arms. We can come up, we can melt down. Lyssa's showing us a version where she's using her arm for stability and support. So it's entirely up to you what you choose and what your challenge level is on any given day. Inhaling as we rise up. Find that length on all sides of the body. Exhaling as we melt down. You can do variations on the arms. They don't have to be the same every time. Find that length as we rise. Crown of the head reaches up. Last 2. I'm gonna go into a Wunda twist next, but a mini one, don't worry. And last 1. All right, we're gonna take our hands onto the mat towards the far edge, and the left foot comes in front of the right. Once we're here, we're gonna come into a plank where we have our shoulders facing forward and our hips facing to the side, making sure we don't hang into that bottom hip or the shoulders. Find your best side plank, and then we're gonna swivel the pelvis just a little bit and do a micro pike up, and then swivel back to start. Micro pike up, and swivel back to start. Think about the outer thighs magnetizing as you pike up and swivel. Left inner thigh spirals forward as the right inner thigh spirals back during that pike. So they're spiraling in opposition, and we're really working for length. And that's when we're really gonna get a sincere focus through the low, deep abdominals. Finding that?
Yeah.
She's not talking to me. Little tiny lift. Good, you guys. Lyssa's showing us the same variation here. Lots of length. Last two. Keep lots of length. Last one, and go ahead and bring both knees down because we're gonna go straight onto the floor one more time, onto our belly, and we're gonna do some swimming. So lay all the way down, and we're gonna extend this time our arms and our legs. Unless that feels aggressive to you, stack your hands again for your forehead, like Lyssa's gonna show us. Your forehead rests on your hands. From here, guys, you know that rule about the tailbone reaching long. So the tailbone reaches long, engage the deep abdominals. Now think about that right leg. Send your intention to the right leg. We're gonna brush the toes as far as we can away from the left fingertips. So we wanna find that diagonal. Once they won't reach any longer, that leg is gonna hover off the floor. Cool, huh? Go ahead and set that back down. Just change your intention. Left leg, brush those left toes away from the right fingertips at that diagonal, and then it hovers off the floor. So now we're going to hover alternating sides. Just the legs are moving at this point. So we're alternating sides. The tailbone is long. We're creasing underneath the glam line, and we're reaching the toes from the opposite fingertips. Once you've got the hang of that, you can reach the opposite fingertips up at the same time. So the left leg, right arm raises. So it's switching side to side like a very long X. We're not here for long. We're gonna do that Wunda twist on the other side next. And then we stretch. That's gotta be good news, right? Plug the arms in. Really think about that tailbone reaching long as we work. And that's gonna help us connect to the deep abdominals. Think about it melting back. Yes, and did you see the shoulder blades also were able to find that melt down? Reaching long as we work. Give me two more. Yes, don't worry about how high it is. Think about length. Gorgeous, and release. Amazing. All right, guys, we're gonna go into that Wunda twist other side. So let's flip it over. Hands at the long part of the mat. I swear to God, we stretch next. And we're gonna take that right foot in front of the left, shoulders are forward, and hips are to the side at the top of our best twisted plank we've got, yes? And now on the inhale, little mini pike in rotation, and bring it back down. Little mini pike in rotation. You can see that Lyssa's chosen her forearms on this side, which is a really great option if you have carpal tunnel, or if that just doesn't feel great to your body on your wrists. You're always welcome to come down onto the forearms, and you can see that she's still got that really beautiful rotation happening through the pelvis. It's still possible. It's just a shorter lever and makes it a little less aggressive on the wrists, but guess what? A little more intense on the core. You feel that, Lyssa? She's like, give me my hands back. What happened? Last 5. And notice that it's such a tiny rotation. It's not a big, real twisty movement. It's just a tiny pike in rotation, getting into the deep waistline. Last 3, beautiful job. Find length, length, length. Gorgeous. Last 2. And last one, all the way down. Beautiful job, you guys. All right, we're gonna go into a mermaid stretch. Oh, hallelujah. So we're gonna fold the legs into a bent position, sitting on the right hip. We're gonna take the right forearm down and the left arm up and over. Don't collapse even when we're stretching. Open through the heart. Find length on the right waistline. We're gonna raise up, the right arm comes long. Now we're gonna find rotation to the right. 2 hands go on the mat. Both forearms melt down if that's accessible to you. Might not be accessible to you, you can keep long if you prefer. And now we're gonna inhale, arms come long, hands stay down as we come into extension with rotation Opening the heart, you can gaze up towards the sky, imprint the hands into the mat, and unwind. Beautiful. We're going to go into a child's pose. So knees come wide, toes come together. We're going to reach the arms long, melt the shoulder blades down. I like to think about separating my lower back from my upper back with my inhale. Exhale any tension in your body. Inhale a positive thought, congratulating yourself on the hard work you did today, maybe. Exhale anything that isn't serving you today. Come on up one more time and let's take that mermaid stretch on the other side. So we're going to sit on the left hip, fold the knees. The left forearm is going to come down this time. Right arm reaches up and over. Notice that there's still length on the underside of the waistline, and we're opening the spaces between the ribs on the top side of the waistline. Take one breath here. Go ahead and rise up. The left arm comes long. Right arm sweeps to the mat as well. We're rotating now, and we're going to melt the elbows down towards the mat. Take a breath. And now the arms come long, hands stay down. As we open the heart, gaze a little bit upward. And unwind, come back to center. You did it again. Great job, you guys. We'll see you next time.